Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today we are looking at the second dev server for update Ixwa Strike, and since this is a dev server, remember there are bugs on it and there are also changes which are going to happen before this stuff hits live. It's always nice to have a look at the stuff on it, and that's what we're going to do in the series of videos coming after this one, including this one. This is the Aviation video, having a look at all of the changes and the differences between the last dev server and this one, and hopefully will show us what is coming in update Ixwa Strike. The first big change is obviously what you see on your screen, the F8U2. This is the Crusader 2, and it's going to be coming to the American tech tree. Right now it is rank 6, battle rating 10.0, and it's going to come after the F3H2 Demon that you can see here. Now, unfortunately for the F8U2 right now, there are a few issues with it. It does have access to AIM-9Bs and AIM-9Ds, but on the dev server, it doesn't. It does have access, though, to its 4 20mm Browning Colt Mark 12s. They should be incredibly fun to use with a ton of ammo. And then also, I don't think the FM's finished on it yet. It's still very beautiful to look at, but when it comes to actually flying it, it seems to have a few issues. This machine is powered by a very large engine, the Allison TF41A1 that you can see here. The wings are made of fuel as usual. You can see the 420mm in the front. A little bit of armor on the top as well, but nothing crazy for this machine, just to try and keep the pilot alive with a little bit of bulletproof glass. They've also done a few changes to the Mavericks that we had a look at last time, and the major changes that they've done are to the actual screen that you see the Mavericks through, which I think is pretty cool. It actually looks a lot more like the old TV screen that we've had. When it comes to, if you've ever seen like footage of, the TV screens used for stuff like Mavericks, now, at least in game, it looks a little bit better and like it. So you can see here it's a lot more grey when we look at the sky, and you can see in the ground, you can see the different contrast between everything just as we take off. I'll show you what vehicles look like through it and all of that good stuff. There is also something else that has been added to Aviation for this update, and it's actually new smokes. New smokes are going to be available, at least through the item shop right now, and this is one of them. This is insecticide. As you can see here, it is basically a crop duster spray, which I think generally looks pretty nice. The other ones I think look a little bit better, but this is like the top tier gold one. I don't know whether we're going to be able to grind these out when it comes to the Warbond shop or when it comes to challenges, but right now you can just purchase them in the item shop, at least on the dev server. Now, if you want to have a look at what the TV looks like, let's give you a go. Obviously, they've changed all of the gun sounds as well, which is, I think the majority of them I agree with. Some of them sound a little bit balked, but the majority sound completely fine. So, if you have a look, this is what the TV screen looks like. You can see the tanks compared to the ground, and so the contrast level is much more important compared to before, which I suppose it's a little bit harder to see compared to before, but I still think it'll be fine for most players who are actually playing it, so I wouldn't worry too much. It's nice to see finally some new smokes in the game. It hasn't been in the game, or there haven't been some new smokes in a very long time in the game, and it just seems like a great way of monetization. But yeah, the TV screen has changed, it looks nicer, that's the main thing. So let's talk about these smokes that exist. So, at least right now, when you go to the item shop, they're right here, and all of them are 500 GE, apart from the insecticide one, which is a, triple stack one. So you can see, at least by the picture, these come off the wings in a dual setup, where this is a triple set. I think that's the major difference between them when it comes to, let's say, the gold one and the silvers. All of these are 500, and this one is the 1000 one. If you have a look comparing it to them, so if you want to just quickly see the different ones, you now actually change them here on the before you go into a battle screen. So instead of actually doing it in your settings for some reason, it's actually in a little bit before. Don't know why they've decided to do that. I thought it was completely fine where it was before, but we'll see if they decide to change it back, or maybe add both options, so therefore they can both affect it. But this is the Crusader, and as you can see, it's a bit of a long boy, but as I said, I don't think it's fully finished. This is what the lawnmower looks like. So it's a pretty simple set of what is supposed to look like grass, and also just a little bit of smoke behind it, a nice green color, and it looks really good when the contrast is high. So against like the sea there, you can see the wonderful little smoke and the little flutters of green coming out of the wings. One of the really cool ones though, and I actually think is the best one out of the bunch, is the spark ones that we have, and I'll just demonstrate it at night just to give you the full effect of what these look like. And in the spark configurations, you have red, green and blue, so you can see all of the different ones, and once again 500G each right now, and I would say that's pretty nice. It's not crazy expensive, it's not going to throw people back. It's basically the price of maybe 2 camouflages and other stuff. So let's see, you can see here, this is what the red looks like. Very, very bright, very, very vibrant, and this is what the other two look like as well. It's just really lovely. It's really nice to see these in their full effect. I'm incredibly happy that we have these new lighting effects, and they just look awesome. Right, anyway, let's move on to another new vehicle that has been being added to the Germans this time, and this is the ME262. Now, unfortunately, my hangar has decided it's got to be nice, so let's actually take it into a test drive to show you it instead. And basically, this one is very similar to the A1A or the A1A that we already have in the tech tree. The only major difference between this and the A1A is that this can carry bombs. It also has an F on the side of it, on the camouflage, but apart from that, that's really about it. It has the same guns, the MK108s, it has 4 of them. They're going to pack a punch, but they don't have the greatest muzzle velocity, so you're going to have to really get used to them. It has the same cockpit, I don't even think that's changed at all. It has the same general structure, it has the same engines, everything is pretty much the same. The only difference is the bomb rack at the bottom. So I don't think this is going to set the world alight or anything, but it is nice to see another 262. This is the green one that you can see here, and obviously the bomb, which looks pretty cool as well, with the wonderful explosion and new effects of the sound. They've really ramped up the sounds in this update, and generally I think they sound really good. But yeah, pretty much the same as the A1, just called the Yabo, and has a 500 kilo. The next set are pseudo 262s, is probably the way to put them. These are the Su9 and also the Premium Su11. Now the Su11 comes in at 7,480 GE. It is a 7.0 vehicle and is going to be a rank 5, so it's going to be able to research the whole of the tech tree for the Soviets if you want to. The major difference between the Su11 and the Su9 are the engines. The Su11 uses the A. Lulka TR1 jet engines, and the Su9 uses the Klimov RD10 jet engines, and this means that the Su11 has more power than the Su9, so it's another vehicle which is pay to win. So the main armament of these two as well, you have the N37 37mm with 30 rounds in the center of the machine, and which is married by 2 23mm NS23s on the sides of it with 200 rounds. So you're going to be able to pack a decent punch with both of these machines, especially in jet combat. It should be very, very effective. You also have the fuel tanks on both sides of the pilot and the engines on the side. When it comes to armor, there is actually a decent bit on this thing. You got a bit of bulletproof glass, you got some behind the pilot, and also even above the pilot, surprisingly, with 2 sets in front as well. So head-onning this thing is not going to be the easiest thing in the world, just because it has the centrally mounted cannons and also has all of the armor on it as well. This thing can also carry some bombs. It can carry a 500, two 250s, or one 250. No rockets, but I still think one 500 is good enough for it to be useful as a casserole. I think about the kicker and how that's used, so I would definitely say that's completely fine. This vehicle also pens 40 millimeters with its APIT on its 37, so not the best, but good enough to be able to shake up some AAs at some point if you want to use it in ground. So yeah, those two vehicles coming in, they are really cool. I wish they were switched, with the Su9 being the premium, but, well, it is how it is. The Su17 M2 also gets a new camouflage on top of the silver one, which it was using before. So, as you can see, it looks really, really nice. And now, as well, they have got the K29L working. Now, the K29L is actually a laser-guided missile, which is kind of cool. So I just want to show you how that actually works in the game. And they have modified the system, which actually uses it. So let's just do that real quick and get rid of the gun pods and get it in, get it working. There we go. So they've also completely revamped the flight model of this thing, so it's completely different to what it was before, and it actually feels like a swept wing aircraft. The wings do, you know, actually get affected by speed and all of that, so it does seem like the flight model is a lot better than it was. One thing they've also added is an automatic option for the swept wing, so you can see there manual wing control mode and then auto sweep wing control mode. Basically, it will get more swept as you get to higher speeds, and that's pretty much how it works. You can manually control it though, so you can do pretty much what you want with it. I think both ways work very well, so I'm completely fine with the way that they have it all set up right now. Then let's just go over here and show you how the missile works. So the missile works in pretty simple ways. You know how with the Maverick you have to acquire a target? Well, with this you have to kind of do the same. You have a green circle, which is sat just above your aimer, and all you have to do is just aim it anywhere on the ground, and you can see that it's set to track. Now, so you can't really shoot it. I suppose you could maybe shoot it at air targets if you were able to set it up properly. But against ground targets, it's pretty much the same as the last system, where it just follows the mouse. And let's just set it up once again. And instead of following the mouse, it just follows the circle. So you just guide the circle in to a target, and the missile will go in with it. And that's just how it works. It's a very simple system. You know, it's nothing that's really going to blow anybody away. But it does mean that you now have a system which isn't just attached to your mouse here, which I think is pretty good. And the Su17, as I said, it actually feels like a plane now. It doesn't feel like it's wobbling around the air. It feels much more similar to the Su7 compared to before. So I'm pretty sure this thing is in a much better state. I don't think too many people will use the KH-29, but it is a nice little addition to it, so therefore we can have some fun with it, especially in ground battles. Britain also gets a plane, but this is the Attacker FB2. This is a slightly different version of the Attacker compared to the one in the tech tree. It's also 8020 GE, and with 8020 GE, you get the same BR as the Attacker, but with a slightly different engine once again. So it has the same payloads. You know, it's able to carry the 2-1000s, 2-500s, and RP3s, and also has all of the same modifications as well. The only difference, as I said, being this. This is the Rolls-Royce Neen 102 that the FB2 uses, compared to the Attacker FB1, which uses a slightly different engine, the Neen 3. So I believe the FB1 should have more power, but that isn't reflected in the numbers given on the dev server. So I'm not entirely sure yet, and just understand there will be a difference between these machines, but it will only be linked to the general engine power. Something else that has also been added is the FGR2, the Phantom, gets a new radar, which is really cool. There's been a lot of updates, either to radar stuff or been to machines' hoods. So a lot of other machines have them, such as the Harriers, the Buccaneers, the Jaguars, and the Phantoms have also got a little bit of an update. Not a huge one, but just a little one. And this radar should be really, really powerful. One of the easiest ones to be able to track planes in the air. It's able to just lock onto them very easily, and obviously with the Sparrows and the Sidewinders in tow, with the SGR2, should make it very simple to shoot down targets. So yeah, you can track them for ages. You can just keep tossing missiles at things if you want to. It's going to be a ridiculous time to be a top-tier Phantom player, with all of these bells and whistles to be able to play with. Definitely a lot of fun, and really, really nice to see overall. So yeah, that's the basic thing, at least with this FGR2. They've given it a new radar and also some slight hood elements. If you want to see what the hoods look like for stuff like the Harriers and the Buccaneer, they're very similar to the ones that we saw from the A7D last time. The Harrier one is slightly different because it's obviously affected by what ordnance you have. With the SRAM, it actually shows you a little X that goes around the hood, and then once it locks onto something, it actually the X follows the targets. And then when it comes to the bombs, it creates the square below, so it knows when you're going to drop. Just to give you an idea, with the SRAMs, you can see the X going around, and then once it actually finds the target, then the X will go to the center, then you just pull the trigger and then fire it. I think it's a really nice little addition to these aircraft, especially these modern aircraft that are now in the game, and I hope this gets pushed for more aircraft as it goes along. I'm sure it will. It's a very cool mechanic, and a lot of people, I suppose, have been looking forward to it for a long time. I'll just show you what it looks like when shooting down this MiG-15, and also show you the blue sparks here. Obviously incredibly blue. Definitely, at least there's some contrast between it and the sea, so that's nice to see. The main thing with the flares I'm looking forward to is stuff such as aerobatic things. I think that'll look really nice. Like, I'd love to see some aerobatic displays with all of the smokes. So you can see the MiG-15 there. And then if we go into hood view, you can see the X moving around. And you can see it's locked with the X in the center, and then you're just able to fire. So it's nothing too crazy, but it all works very well. It's obviously a lot better than before when it was just a blank screen, so this should help simulator players the best when it comes to playing the game. The next one that's available is the Japanese, and the Japanese, well, they do have a G5 already, but they're also getting a new A6M5 High. The A6M5 High, or HEI, gets increased weaponry, but not increased engine performance over some of its brothers. It is going to be folded with the other A6M5s, so we don't have to worry, about grinding it if you don't want to. It's just an extra one after the R2 that you can have a little bit of a go with. And you can see 3 13.2s and 2 20mm. So in the wings, it has the 2 20s, it has one centrally mounted 13, and then 2 wing-mounted 13.2s. The engine itself is still the Nakajima Sake 21 14-cylinder radial, so that hasn't changed from its predecessors, and neither has the armor layout or anything else. This is just going to be a slightly heavier A6M5. It also does have access to some pretty cool rockets, though. The Type 3 No. 6 Mod 27s, and then also the Type 3 No. 1 Mod 28 Mark 1s, plus some bombs as well. So if you feel like taking rockets in, you can. They're quite chunky, so we're going to have to see if anybody actually takes them. I think a lot of people are going to use this thing as an air superiority fighter, and that's completely fine. It's going to be a wonderful plane, just like all the other Zeros. Now, the last but not least item is, of course, the Mirage 3. The Mirage 3 is coming to the game. It's going to be after the Mirage 3C in the tech tree, and that means that it will have its full high-tier modification costs. So when it comes to this aircraft, the general armaments are exactly the same. Has the same missiles, has the same it has the same main guns in the form of the DEFers, the 30mm, but what has changed is pretty much everything else. This machine has access to countermeasures in the form of flares. Now, as I said, unfortunately the countermeasures aren't working right now, but it should have access to flares and also chaff, at least compared to what it says here. Then it also has access to a new RWR, which will obviously be very nice as well. And the engine gets an upgrade too. It's the SNEC-MA ATAR-9C jet engine, and should give this thing a little bit more oomph when it's flying around the air. So the Mirage 3 gets a bunch of mechanics added to it, and it also gets a little bit of a more beefy engine. Overall, it is just lovely to see another Mirage in the game. They are beautiful aircraft, and it's always good to just see more of them there. I'm sure in the future we'll get even more Mirages as we go, because they are such iconic aircraft for the French. And at the same time, if they just keep adding more and more of these variants, I would be incredibly happy to see it. A few little more mechanics here and there, a few little things here and there is always the correct way to go, and I'm glad that we see ourselves in this situation with the Mirage 3E. But anyway, that is all of the new stuff for Aviation on the dev server for update Ixwa Strike. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Conte Baraka, Trigger Hippie, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Hosest Kishore, Hans, Bareen, and Samuel Schlick for supporting the channel.